Hello everybody, I'm Dan. Welcome to my Java tutorial series. This tutorial is an introduction to the StringBuilder class, and I'm going to be doing some comparisons with the StringBuilder and the string class, and it's kind of important to know the details between the differences and similarities between the two classes there. So I'm going to open up my web browser to my website, javacjava.com, select Begin. I'm going to scroll all the way down here to the StringBuilder introduction. I'm going to produce several tutorials relating to the StringBuilder class. In each of these tutorials, I'll be comparing similarities and differences to the string class. The string class has all sorts of nuances that I've addressed in my multi-part string tutorials. I recommend watching all of the string-related tutorials to get a good feel for the string class capabilities. Now, the most notable difference between the StringBuilder class and the string class is that the string class is immutable, and the StringBuilder class is mutable. You might be going, well, I don't really understand what immutable or mutable is, you know. I went over kind of a really detailed, even with demonstration on creating like a mutable class when in the string, all those string tutorials, the multi-part string tutorials that I did. But I'll just give you kind of a quick overview here. So I have to talk about what object state is first. So object state is a fancy term for describing the values held by instance variables. Now, immutable means that the object state cannot be modified once it is instantiated. Mutable means that the object state can be modified after it is instantiated. So a mutable state example. Let's say, for example, we've got this final being the keyword here. It's the main difference between a mutable state and a mutable state. Immutable state, immutable state. So final, I've got a character array, and in this character array here, I've just got, these 5 characters here, hello, right? And this basically represents like object state. This would be an instance variable inside of a class, okay? So object state would point basically as a reference variable, and of course this is its own object here. So inside of an object, you'd have an instance variable that would point to basically another object, which is containing this like character sequence here, okay? So by making this final, that means that we can't take this object state reference variable and assign it to a new, say for example, character sequence. So if I try to do object state equals new and then character array here and then cat, right? No, this is illegal. Final won't allow object state to be assigned to another object. Okay, and you got to remember, object state is just the reference variable of an object. Okay, so now a mutable state example where it can change. Okay, no final keyword. We've got just simple char object state array, right, and setting that equal to basically this character array here with hello. Okay. We can then on the next execute another statement here saying object state equals new character array cat, right? No problem. Object state is now cat. That is perfectly legal because we don't have this final keyword. So that's the main difference between, say, something that's immutable and mutable. There's a lot more to it than that, so I'm just kind of overgeneralizing it there, but just to kind of give you an idea, especially with how it relates to the string class and the StringBuilder class. Okay, so let's go into the constructors for the StringBuilder class. So there are several constructors in the StringBuilder class. The first constructor is a no-argument constructor that creates a StringBuilder object with an initial capacity of 16 characters. I have no idea why they chose 16 character, who knows. Now, when I say initial capacity, there's definitely a capacity as the keyword here. So it is important to note that capacity and length are two completely separate things, okay? Because you might be thinking, okay, we create a new StringBuilder object with this particular statement right here, StringBuilder type reference variable s1 equals new StringBuilder, right? And this is a no argument. This is invoking the no argument constructor right here. So would our length be actually like 16? And the answer is no. The length would be 0, and we can do so by invoking the length method. And of course the string class has a length method too, and both of them work the same way there. We also have this capacity method here for the StringBuilder class, and that'll show us 16 on this. So the length method will return the actual length of the value contained in the object state. The capacity method will return the size of the internal available character sequence size. Now, fortunately, you do not have to worry about maintaining the size of the character sequence for your object state. The JVM will take care of that work. Okay, now optionally you can set the initial capacity of the string builder character sequence by using another constructor that takes a primitive int argument. All right, so in this particular statement here, I'm basically got a string builder type S2 reference variable, setting that equal to reference of a new string builder object, and invoking the constructor that takes an int argument there. 300 will basically set the capacity here. Okay, so on the next statement, if we invoke the length method, it's still going to show 0 because we basically have, there's nothing in there but a bunch of like empty character sequences. It's like the char array, the character sequence array has been initialized up to 300, right? And but there's nothing in it. So capacity method will return back 300 in this particular case here. Okay. So now another constructor simply takes a string argument. So this is very similar to the way you can initialize a, an ordinary good old string reference variable there. So string builder type S3 reference variable equals a reference to a new string builder object, and we're invoking the string builder constructor that takes a string literal for a parameter string or string literal for a parameter, either or. In this particular case, I'm passing it a string literal. So hello world, right? And if we invoke the length method here, that's going to return back 11. Of course, there's 5, and then our space right there, 6, and then there's 5 more, so it's 11. So our length of our string object there at that point in time is 11. And if you invoke the capacity method here, it's going to be 27, which is 16 more than the 11. Seems to be fairly common. I haven't found a rule that it actually keeps, making the capacity more and more and more, based more or less based on, what you're setting your string to, right? But 16 seems to be kind of the norm on that. All right, let's go ahead and come down here and highlight this source code here. This is going to be a fairly short tutorial here. I'll go over some of the stuff there. Control-C to copy, or right-click and select copy. I'll leave the browser off screen here, and I've got a shortcut to the command prompt on my desktop, but if you don't, you can create one really fast by right-clicking, New, Shortcut, CMD, Next, and Finish. It's just that easy. All right, let's go ahead and open that up. First thing we're going to do is type in javac, which is the Java compiler command. We're going to press Enter on that. You should see all this stuff scroll by. Now, however, if you receive an error message, watch my tutorial on installing the Java Development Kit. I want to make sure you get that installed and configured properly before continuing. CLS to clear the screen, CD space /. CD is short for change directory, / tells it to go to the root. We'll make a directory here called Java using the MD command. I already have that folder, but if you don't, it'll go ahead and create it for you. Let's change directories to the Java folder. Then I'll make the directory here. I'm just going to call this String Builder Intro. Let's change directories to the String Builder Intro folder, and then a notepad. String Builder Intro.java. Okay, that'd be the name of my source code file, also known as a compilation unit. Let's go ahead and paste this stuff in here and save. All right, maybe I should add a little spacing here on some of these things here. Yeah, I think that'll work there. All right, so everything that we've discussed so far in the tutorial or on the website is these lines right here, right before I display to the console, basically these little dashes here. And let's go ahead and just save this and come up here and compile it here. Let's clear our screen, javac plus the name of the file that we want to compile, Java, and then we want to, Java runs the Java virtual machine, and we want to invoke the String Builder Intro class. Okay, so up above the line here, right, S1 length equals 0, and that is basically on this particular one here, right? We're just creating a new string builder object, so our length is equal to 0, our capacity is 16, right? Right here, on this particular statement here, our length is equal to 0 still, and our capacity is now 300. And then on this statement here, where we're initializing it to the string literal, our length is 11 and our capacity is 27. Okay, so in the kind of second part of this down here, I'm going to do like some comparisons here. So in creating a new string type S and setting that equal to a new string hello, right? That works exactly the same way as this. We're both going to end up with a couple of hellos there, right? And you know, what I should do is, before I do this here, let's just go ahead and comment these two lines out, and we'll just display the S and SB to the console here to begin with there. So let's clear our screen. Let's recompile this. Let's rerun it. Okay, so S equals hello, SB equals hello. All right, so in the string class, there is this concat method, right? Which will basically concatenate the current value of the string object there, right? And then plus whatever we specify for this argument here, or parameter, however you want to view it. So we'll get hello world, right? Okay. So, and then SB does not have a concat method. They have an append method. And, you know, you think concatenate and append, it's really the same damn thing. You know, who cares? So we're going to take SB, which is our string builder reference here, and we're going to append world on the end of it here. All right, let's go ahead and save this. So just one more time to reiterate, the string class has a concat method that will add this to the end of the current string, and the append method has, or the string builder has an append method that will add this to the end of the string, okay? Or so it may seem. Let's go ahead and clear our screen. Let's go ahead and recompile, rerun, and here's what we get. S equals hello, and SB equals hello world. And you might be going, okay, what on earth happened there, right? And so what happened is this is where it becomes immutable, becomes very important, right? So we assigned this to this particular object that's created right here, right? And without this equals, which is the assignment operator, we can in no way change what this reference variable, well, basically what the reference variable inside of here, which would be a character sequence inside of the string object, can actually point to, right? The only way we can actually change, you know, what S will ever display is to reassign it using the equals operator there. So even though we said s.concat, right, that basically over to the left of here, right, would have returned back literally hello space world, but it's not, it doesn't change the original one. The only way we'd be able to do that would be, like, for example, s equals s.concat, okay? So let's go ahead and save this here, and let's go ahead and recompile this, and we'll clear the screen, and we'll rerun it. Okay, so now you can see we get s equals hello world. All right, so that's the major difference there. Now, because SB is a string builder, and string builder is mutable, and we can change the you know, the object that internal, the object string builder, you know, you'll have that like internal character sequence that can point to anything. So the append method there will actually literally change the value of, or the state of this string builder object up here, whereas concat will not, okay? We could do something like, for example, string B, right? And we can say B equals s.concat, right? And then right down here, we will go ahead and put in B equals, right, plus the value B. So that'll kind of show you here. So B, we're not assigning to anything, and then string B, we're just creating a reference variable. And then when we actually assign it, it's going to be whatever is, like, think of it right here where the concat method returns back, hello world. And then you'll see that, you know, well, let's go ahead and do this and I'll show it to you here. All right, let's go ahead, compile that, run this. So you can see S is left alone because it's mutable, and B, we just assigned it to the return value basically of the concat method, which is in fact hello world. Okay, so that is basically that, right? Let's take this out of here. String, immutable. String builder, mutable. So we don't have to do any sort of assignment, reassignment to it in order to change the state of the string builder object, right? Here, the only way we can, you can never change the state of this particular object. The only thing you can do is change what the reference variable points to, right? So you could, you know, it's perfectly legit to say s equals, you know, Dan right here, right? Because This particular, when we assign it to this string literal, this is actually, in essence, no different than, for example, this right here, right? Okay. Whenever the compiler comes across like an actual string literal, it'll pretty much, well, with the one little teeny tiny exception, but don't worry about that. But think of it like whenever the compiler comes across a string literal in the code, it will essentially do this right here. It does a few other things with what's called the string literal pool, but don't worry about that right now. So you just have to kind of think about it like that, because a lot of people get confused when they say, oh, a string is immutable and you can never change the value of it. You're not changing the value of the actual string object. You're changing what this reference variable right here actually refers to. This is an object right here. This is an object right here. These are essentially the same thing. Okay? So if we came back up here and recompiled that, right? We're essentially going, S equals Dan and hello world. Okay, so hopefully I've explained that, so that all makes perfect sense. Let's go ahead and just put this back to the way it was on that. Save. And bada boom, bada bing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close out of this, leave you with just some couple final thoughts there. So this tutorial serves as an introduction to the StringBuilder class. Stay tuned for more StringBuilder tutorials while I demonstrate many of the various methods in the StringBuilder class. That concludes this tutorial. Thanks for watching.